This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
As the cold winter weather sets in, pressure is building on the Tasmanian government to do more to help our homeless. The opposition says it's not okay that so many people are continuing to sleep rough as our temperatures plummet.
Lending a helping hand to our volunteers.
Stay clear of patients.
All clear.
From July, the state government will help provide more training to volunteer ambulance officers and cover their out-of-pocket expenses.
These are important measures that will cost the taxpayers $800,000 per year, but we're doing this because I think it shows a genuine commitment to helping our volunteers. Frankly, we couldn't do it without them.
But as the pressure builds on our housing sector, the opposition says that's where hand-ups should be being given.
I've never been as offended when the government referred to those people who are sleeping rough, sleeping at showgrounds, sleeping in parks, as part of the growing pains of a growing economy.
Unfortunately, through the Parliament in the last term, we did see the Labor Party opposing our housing plans. To accommodate people who need housing, we need to build more houses. That's what our plan is.
The opposition will continue pushing for immediate housing crisis solutions when State Parliament resumes on Tuesday.
I've had constituents in my office in the last few weeks. Some of them can't even get into the women's shelter because the waiting period for that, for them and their children, was 2 to 3 weeks. That's not sustainable.
Legislation to cap Tasmanian power prices will also be debated this week. A boost for first home buyers in next month's state budget also promised today. The state government committing to extend its $20,000 first home builders grant and offer half-price stamp duty. Monica Dadson at Southern Cross News.
A burst water main is continuing to cause disruptions on the Brooker Highway tonight, with a lane in each direction closed to traffic. The burst occurred around 5 o'clock this morning. The water force so strong a traffic light was knocked over. Workers spent the day on the scene on the corner of Risdon and Bowen Road, but are yet to determine the cause. While the total damage bill from Hobart's catastrophic floods is still yet to be tallied, community members continue to band together to clean up the local environment. Hundreds of people pitching in today, collecting plastics and debris from the badly affected rivulet.
Gumboots donned, gloves fitted, all hands on deck.
Yeah, well, it feels nice that you're making your community better, and after this we'll have a clean rivulet again.
This local grade 3 student, one of hundreds of people chipping in at South Hobart today, cleaning the area still badly affected from last week's catastrophic storm.
Has been particularly badly affected by rubbish, plastic pollution, simply because of where it sits, and it is close to the Macrobies Gully Waste Management Centre.
And a lot came out of wheelie bins.
Volunteers collecting over 500 kilos of rubbish, including resurfaced metals and car batteries.
Just getting caught in the trees and in the rocks and even in the mud, we had to yank some stuff out. There were tin cans, a lot of plastic bottles and stuff. So if we can make, a dent in that, it'd be great.
The event, held by the City Council and Bushcare, organised to ensure pollution caused by the flooding doesn't choke other waterways.
Plastic takes over 1,000 years to degrade, so it just stays there and it just hurts the environment.
Yeah, and there's 8 million pieces of plastic in the ocean, even more, and if we want to help marine life, we can't really leave it there.
The poor old Derwent copped a massive plastic injection last weekend, so the more we can pull out of the rivulet now to stop that happening again in the future will be great.
Flood-affected residents reminded the tip will be open for free next Sunday, with a clean-up event to be held at Cornelian Bay also on Sunday.
We're hoping to get round to all the suburbs and have events like this.
For the community spirit.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Evandale residents are calling for the developers of a proposed new suburb to meet with them face-to-face to hear their concerns. It's proposed the new neighbourhood, twice the size of Evandale, will be built beside the historic village. But many residents aren't happy they haven't been consulted.
A town meeting filled with concern.
This amazing lifestyle that we have, this beautiful historic village, they're leveraging on that.
More than 100 people packing into the Evandale Football Club, many vowing to fight the proposed development.
The buck stops with council. It's the council
who is ultimately going to be people that make the call on this.
They're only in concept at this stage, and we're waiting to see what, if there's anything or what will be presented.
The developer is Sydney-based company Traders in Purple. It's understood it's still in the process of buying almost 600 acres of land to the east of Evandale. The proposed plan is to turn that area into a new suburb, housing around 2,500 people and including parkland.
I'd like to see some development because at the moment we just haven't got housing for families.
Others are concerned about traffic, heritage and who will pay for new infrastructure.
So it'll be just another ticky-tacky town that we see littered around all our cities around Australia.
I'm old and I've seen modern towns built in England and they are nothing but disastrous.
Representatives from Traders in Purple are expected to meet with Evandale residents this week to come up with design ideas. If they proceed, a land rezoning application will first need to be submitted to council, but the actual development could take years.
I think definitely we need to grow the whole of northern Tasmania. Tasmania needs population growth, but it has to be done has to go through due process.
Monika Dadsen, Southern Cross News.
Dogs of all shapes and sizes and their owners have taken part in this year's Million Paws Walk, the national event, a chance for animal lovers to get together and raise funds for the RSPCA.
So it's our biggest fundraiser and our money obviously goes to keeping our animal care centres running, looking after our animals that our inspectors have to seize, which can take quite some time to get through a court system, for example. Just looking after all those animals most in need.
Organisers hope to raise $60,000 across Tasmania.
With many predicting they will go through the entire TSL season winless, North Hobart have silenced the doubters with a hard-fought victory over Kingborough at the Twin Ovals, while the Eastern Shore grudge match lived up to its name as the Roos and Bombers battled tooth for nail for 4 quarters of footy. With big things expected from D's recruit Colin Garland, the former Melbourne Demon delivered, booting the underdogs away to the early lead. But with goals few and far between for the match, the Tigers managed just the one by quarter time, courtesy of a 50-metre penalty. Garland kept the momentum in the visitors' favour with this contender for goal of the round, with the D's up by 3 come the half-time siren. The home side stepping up slightly in the third to make it a 2-goal game heading into the last, but with North Hobart tasting a long-awaited victory, nothing was going to stand in their way, the young side shaking the monkey off the back with an 8-point win. Darren Winter's long-awaited return to the coach's box didn't disappoint as tempered flared right throughout the Eastern Shore grudge match. Ryan Bailey gifted the Roos first of the match before a shonky shot at the sticks from Jake Cox resulted in another thanks to young gun Harry Richmond. But the home side soon responded through Alex Heavey to see the Bombers trailing by just 4 points at the first change. Roos coach Jeremy Webberley continued his solid form to extend the gap, but Lauderdale refused to be bullied on their home turf, with Tim Mosquito using his pace to narrow the margin to a single point at the main break. Goal for goal in the final half of play, Jacob Gilby dribbled this home, hugged in on the boundary. Tim Castle wouldn't be outdone, booting a string of majors to set up for a thriller. Ryan Wiggins snapping one of the goals of the match to keep the Bombers' hopes alive, but in the end it was the Roos who wanted it more, getting home by 14 points. Nunawading has brought the Chargers' winning run to an end, with the men's side going down by 4 points in Melbourne overnight. It was better news for the state's women's sides, with the Chargers and the Tawns getting up over Nunawading and Sydney Uni. Over on the northwest coast, it was a hard-fought win for the Thunder against Mount Gambier, with the home side leading the way for the first 3 quarters before the Pioneers clawed back into the match, forcing the Thunder to find another gear. NBL import Mason Bragg starring with 35 points, helping his side hold on for the 10-point win. A burst water main has wreaked havoc ahead of this morning's City to Casino in Hobart, shutting down the 11-kilometre course. But it didn't deter hundreds from taking part in the annual fun run, with 2 previous winners claiming line honours. Competitors were given the news just a couple of hours before the race began after a burst water main blocked the Brooker Highway, forcing the 11-kilometre race to be cancelled.
I mean, sort of relieved in a way, because now I only have to run 7k.
First I was a bit disappointed because I'm prepared for it, but the 7k was just as hard.
But Miriam Dowie made it look easy, crossing first in the women's race in just over 23 minutes, claiming back-to-back City to Casino crowns, just 5 years after she started running competitively at this very event.
I remember that first day, just seeing the atmosphere, seeing how, the community came together just to run and walk. It was great and I loved it, and that's what really got me into running.
A two-horse race for most of the men's until Launceston's Patrick Smith put the burners on to take his second title in a time of 20 minutes and 32 seconds.
Once you get up Davies Street, you're sort of home free, so Deej and I were pushing pretty hard, and then about 1,500 to go, he actually said to me, "Go, mate," because I think he was starting to feel it, and I was feeling good, so I'm happy to take the win. But for the majority of today's field, they were just happy to cross the finish line in one piece.
Fortunately, I've had a hip and a knee replacement, so I shouldn't really be running.
Hoping not for too many blisters or sore feet or anything.
Or falling over.
Yeah.
We went out and had a bit of a bender last night.
Good on her. Around 80 of the country's best snooker players have battled it out for a cut of the $12,000 prize pool in today's semi-final rounds at the inaugural Ron Atkins Classic in Launceston. Several Tasmanians made up a strong contingent of local talent, with 12 of the country's top-ranked players competing. The final will take place later tonight.
Welcome back. 14 degrees today for Hobart. Launceston had the state's top with 18, with 15 for Burnie and 17 in Devonport. Around Tasmania, 16 degrees at Friendly Beaches, 15 for the Bass Strait Islands, Low Head and St Helens, 14 degrees for Smithton, Grove and Ouse, Strahan reaching 13 degrees with 7 the top for Lyowini. Extensive low cloud covers most parts of Tasmania today there on the charts. Looking further out shows similar conditions over Victoria and South Australia. High-level cloud lingers over southeastern parts with the remainder mostly cloud-free. Tomorrow conditions remain much the same with the high over the Bight. West to southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots for Tasmania, reaching 35 to 40 knots about the south and the northeast, with seas between 2 and 4 metres. There are a few warnings: a gale warning current for northeastern, southern and lower eastern coastal waters, a strong wind warning for remaining waters and a small craft wind alert for southwest and central lakes. Looking to the forecast, showers for the south, Hobart 15, 14 at Dover and Ouse. Cloudy across the northeast, 16 in Launceston, 15 for Devonport, 14 degrees at Scottsdale, 15 degrees and showers for Burnie and Stanley, 14 for Strahan, with cloudy conditions for the east coast, 17 degrees for St Helens, 16 at Swansea and 14 the top at Ross. Looking ahead, Tuesday brings showers about the west and the far south, mostly fine conditions elsewhere. Similar conditions again on Wednesday, with showers continuing for the west and the far south on Thursday. Looking at your major centres tomorrow, 25 degrees and sunny there in Perth and Brisbane. Showers for Adelaide and Melbourne, 17 degrees, 16 in Canberra. The temperature in the low 30s for Darwin and Broome, with 22 for Sydney. And a few showers at the moment in Hobart, 12 degrees, Launceston and Devonport 13. That's all from me, Rach. Have a good weekend.
We have done. Thank you for that, Sam. Well, that's all your news for now. Thanks for joining us. Joe Palmer will be back with you tomorrow night at 6. I'm Rachel Williams. Good night.